Hey everyone, welcome back. It is time once again to take a look at what new games are coming out this month. Kicking things off in August, we have got a Level 0 Extraction. This is a PvPvE tactical extraction shooter in a survival horror setting. You play as mercenaries searching for loot while fighting other players, but there's a bit of a twist. Like other extraction games, your ultimate goal is to find valuable loot like weapons, resources, consumables, and currency, exploring the map, gathering as much as you can, and then attempting to extract safely. Making that more difficult are the many hazards to your health, which include AI enemy mutants that roam the darkened maps, various traps like automated turrets, live wires, and mines. There are also other hostile players hunting for loot as well, and on top of that, there are player-controlled aliens hunting all of you. So not only is this an extraction game in a survival horror setting, but it's also an asymmetrical multiplayer game. There's you, the other mercenary players, and then the alien players whose goal is to eliminate as many mercenaries as possible. It has been a while since I've played an asymmetrical multiplayer game, and this sounds pretty neat. So playing as the human is straightforward, like mentioned. Go in, find loot, survive, and extract. It is an FPS, so you'll engage in gunfights using a variety of firearms and prototypes. You can customize guns with attachments. There's also melee weapon combat and gadgets, which include things like motion detectors and door jammers. Also for humans, yes, it is a bit of a survival horror game with these completely darkened rooms and corridors illuminated by just a few light sources. There are the creepy mutant enemies that lurk around every corner, and then the alien players, which will pretty much amount to jump scares whenever they happen to find and go after you. The game also has proximity chat with all of the pros and cons that entails, and you will have your own personal light source with like flashlights and flares, which not only help you see what's going on, but they are also the only way to kill those player-controlled aliens. Now, playing as the aliens, you have your own movement system and special abilities, which you use to hunt down the humans. So alien abilities include things like a toxic spit, invisibility, scream, and an EMP shockwave. You will be cooperating with another alien player to try to ambush the mercenaries whenever they're vulnerable. While navigating the map, you will have to avoid any light sources because every light bulb and flare is deadly to you as an alien. And ultimately, your goal is, yes, to hunt the humans. In doing so, you will improve your DNA with every elimination, and then as you level up your alien, you can sell its DNA to reset progress and earn currency that you then use on your mercenary. The game will be launching with two maps. There is the research facility and the caves. Each of these have their own unique setting, but also unique dangers and lore behind them. And the game will have progression systems, including contracts that you can complete to grow your reputation with these traitor factions, unlocking new equipment, and then you can create these neural implants with random effects that enhance and modify your mercenary. So Level 0 Extraction is entering Steam Early Access on August 6th. They say they plan to continue developing throughout, adding more content and features with the help of community feedback. They currently do have a living roadmap up now detailing their latest development plans. This game looks pretty neat. We'll see how it all goes. Yeah, it's a nice little twist on the survival extraction genre. Before we continue with this month's list, let's get a word from today's sponsor, which happens to be another new game coming out on July 31st. This is Sword of Convallaria. This is a tactical fantasy RPG that aims to revitalize the Japanese turn-based pixel art genre. You'll recruit and train a roster of unique companions at the tavern, teaching them skills, building their equipment at the forge, improving their stats in the training field, and then leading your group into legendary quests with and against different factions. You'll journey through the world in an over 120-hour-long campaign, where you'll have to make choices that determine the plot and change events. The game also lets you start over, beginning new loops to experience the different stories of the different factions. In terms of combat, they follow the class counters such as axe beats shield, shield beats spear, etc. It's all very rock, paper, scissors. However, they don't use a turn-based system where all the units on each side move once per round. Instead, it uses an RPG-like system where agility determines move order, allowing high agility characters such as archers and rogues to strike first. You can learn more and download Sword of Convallaria yourself by clicking on the link in the video description below. And use my code SOCForce to get some free rewards in-game. All right, now that we have paid the bills, let's get back into this month's list. Next up this month is Black Myth Wukong, a narrative-focused, single-player, Soulsborne-inspired action RPG. The game tells the tale of Sun Wukong on his pilgrimage through Central Asia in a world, of course, full of Chinese mythology and folklore. So it's got Soulsborne-inspired combat. According to the developer, this was their major inspiration, the Soulsborne series of games. You'll have a variety of light and heavy attacks. There's a stance system with the different stances altering countering your attacks, giving you access to new moves, and combat really centers around Sun Wukong's use of his powerful transforming staff. So it can be tossed out like a boomerang, you can extend it outward to reach enemies at a distance, you've got jump attacks, sweep attacks, charge attacks, you can plant the staff in the ground to elevate above enemies and restore your focus. There's even cool abilities like a time freeze, fire ring, and split shadow. Now, recent hands-on previews say that the game's combat feels like a blending of Sekiro and Bloodborne. It is on the faster paced end of things with aggressive enemies and quick attacks. There's also no block button in the game. Instead, you make use of evasive moves like your ability to dodge. And the game has a few obvious twists and additions to the traditional Souls-like formula. For example, you have got a whole host of transformations, creatures from Chinese folklore Sun Wukong can turn into in the middle of battle. We've seen a lot of interesting enemy design. It's got the usual mix of archetypes, some weaker enemies, some mid-tier challenge enemies, and big bosses. There's a big variety and focus on animal types here. So we've seen like wolf creatures, monkeys, cats, rodents, bugs. And then of course there are the big scale boss fights as expected. Bosses with a variety of attack patterns to memorize as you try to avoid taking damage, whittling down their health and moving through several phases as they get tougher along the way. We've seen some big boss examples like a werewolf, the white Chinese dragon, the lizard snake hybrid, giant beetles, and an ogre. And I gotta say, now that we've actually started to see some gameplay, I think this is looking pretty solid. Clearly does appear to be more of a linear romp. These don't appear to be like these open levels, even semi-open levels. Yeah, it looks like we're gonna be moving through pretty straightforward paths into combat arenas and boss battles, but still seems like an interesting new entry into the Souls-like genre. We'll see how much of the game there is come release, but you know what? Yeah, I think this combat actually looks pretty good. Black Myth Wukong is coming to PC and PS5 on August 19th. There is an Xbox release scheduled sometime at a later date. The next big World of Warcraft expansion launches this month. The War Within kicks off a planned trilogy of updates with narrative and feature through lines. So what is new this time around? Well, all of the usual suspects are here. There is a new landmass with its own storylines, side quests, and places to explore as you level. There will of course be new dungeons and raids. They have raised the level cap back to 80 once again. This is like the at least second or third time we've been level 80 cap in an expansion, right? And of course, all new gear sets with various forms of power progression for you to chase after. In addition to that, there's a bunch of other more unique content and features coming in this update. Warbands are an all-new account-wide progression system. Essentially, this makes everything easier for sharing progress and resources while playing multiple characters. So there's a warband bank with multiple tabs to easily transfer reagents and items between characters. Certain transferable gear will be a collectible. You can get this gear that you can just share and pass around between your different alts. There will be transferable currencies. Instead of mailing gold and other stuff to yourself, you can now quickly do it in the user interface. And there's just general account-wide progression with many things that were previously character-specific, now account-wide. These include reputations, transmogs, flight paths, and achievements. Delves are a new form of endgame content. These are outdoor vaults for players to explore. It's actually kind of similar to Torghast from what I've heard in that it is repeatable content with layouts that will shift from one run to the next. It's also meant to be a new activity, kind of focused on solo players. You can play in groups of up to 4, but this is a really new content type that's tailored for people who want some solo activities. There are going to be multiple different kinds of delves, 12 of them in total from what I've heard, with different objectives and locations to explore. There's the skywriting feature that was introduced in Dragonflight. It is now being expanded upon in War Within. This was, to be reductive, Blizzard taking the amazing mount system from Guild Wars 2 and just putting their own spin of it and tossing it in WoW. Well, now you can use this dynamic flight mode in most of the game with over 450 flying mounts this will apply to. You can still do the traditional flying system that was introduced in Burning Crusade if you want to opt into that instead, but this dynamic flying just seems way more interesting. Skywriting now also comes with its own now evergreen talent tree, glyphs, and proficiency levels. Some other additions in this expansion include hero talents that will be leaning heavily into various class and spec fantasies, the new allied race of Earthen, think dwarves but made out of stone. There's been UI updates for the in-game map and spellbook. There's an arachnophobia mode. If you're scared of spiders, you can now replace them with things like crabs, and cross-realm guilds and guild support. So the War Within will be launching on August the 26th. I am going to make a concentrated effort to play this expansion. I skipped out on Dragonflight despite hearing mostly good things, mainly because all of my WoW time in like the past 12 months has been devoted to classic hardcore and playing Season of Discovery. But you know what? I think I'm ready to jump back into retail. This should be the expansion. Actually, funny enough, Dragonflight's like the only expansion I completely missed within the course of its like 2-year lifespan. I've played every other one in WoW, so really odd, honestly, that I just never get around to it. Maybe I'll play it before War Within comes out. They just like speedrun it in a couple of weeks. I don't know, we'll see. Next up, Smite 2 is actually going to be releasing this month after having been delayed out of last month due to them, quote, taking some extra time to implement tons of changes based on feedback. This is the sequel to, well, Smite, the third-person action MOBA. Longtime viewers of the channel might remember I used to have a healthy addiction to this game, playing it almost daily over the period of a couple of years. I really enjoyed Smite. I don't know how the game's been as of late, but I certainly recall having a good time. I definitely played it long enough. So just like the original, Smite 2, you will choose from a large selection of these playable gods, immortals, and creatures from various ancient mythologies, and then take them into battle against opposing teams of other players in the classic MOBA fashion and formula. The main game mode is a 5 vs 5 3-lane tower push with waves of creeps steadily spawning for both sides. You've got jungle between all of the lanes, which you can then find NPCs that reward powerful buffs, and you have the ability to purchase upgrades tailoring to different playstyles for the various characters. It is very much like League of Legends or Dota, but in third person. The goal is to get an advantage over the opposing team, securing skills, leveling and powering up, pushing their towers, and eventually making your way into their base and eliminating their titan to win. Each of the playable characters have their own unique abilities and fighting styles, as well as that backstory that with them being like gods from all sorts of mythologies. Now, in terms of updates for the sequel, the game looks to be getting a bunch of improvements aimed at making it feel more modern and fresh. It is being ported to Unreal Engine 5, and besides looking better, it's also said to have now more impactful combat. Also, it's been designed from the start to be playable on keyboard, controller, as well as the Steam Deck. Smite 2 will release on August the 27th for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Star Wars Outlaws is a new open-world Star Wars game developed by Ubisoft. Set between the events of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, you play as Kay Vess, an emerging scoundrel seeking freedom and the means to start a new life, which she does along with her cute companion named Nyx. Now, the game looks to be a blending of some of the traditional open world Ubisoft formula, yes, but also with this more focused areas as you bounce between the universe, visiting different locations, not all of which will be fully open and seamless, and they're gonna kind of be blending seamless spaces with more narrow particular areas. So there are several distinct planets in which, while visiting, you will explore these relatively open world areas in which you will come across bustling cities, cantinas, a variety of points of interest, and of course enemy camps to clear, because this is Ubisoft after all. Every planet does have its own unique twist, both visually but also narratively, with its own main and side story quests, unique challenges, rewards, and places to explore. You can fight enemies head on, taking out your opposition with a trusty blaster and other offensive tools, or if you want, you can choose to stay hidden utilizing a stealth system and various means of distraction and camouflage. The story centers around you taking on these high-risk, high-reward missions from the galaxy's crime syndicates. You'll be stealing valuable goods, infiltrating secret locations, and trying to outwit enemies. To go along with this is a reputation system, which will fluctuate depending on the decisions for the various syndicates that you make. You also have your own ship, the Trailblazer, which you'll use to engage in dogfights with the Empire and other syndicates while flying through space. Now, there's been a bit of a commotion around this title, as with a lot of Ubisoft games in recent years, but I like the look of Star Wars Outlaws, and I am hoping that they sort of buck the trend of the really formulaic approach that they've taken to a lot of their games. Ideally, it doesn't feel just like Far Cry Star Wars Edition. That's what I'm hoping for. Star Wars Outlaws is coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox on August the 30th. So that is the main portion of our list, but we have got plenty of honorable mentions, starting with Deathbound, a party-based Souls-like set in a world where faith and science clash. The game has you dynamically transforming between fallen warriors, each with their own unique set of skills, combat styles, and rich histories. While playing, you'll gain the skills, memories, and identities of fallen warriors throughout the world, which then lets you combine their unique styles. Now, basically the essence that you absorb form what is essentially your party. You're able to then craft playstyles via this talent tree and then swap between these characters seamlessly while fighting, using their skills and abilities, with even having things like synergizing combinations called morph strikes. The game's world is like a blend of this medieval setting with strange tech and even stranger creatures. It looks very unique. I like unique. Deathbound is launching on August 8th for PC. Janthir Wilds is the latest expansion for Guild Wars 2. Players are tasked with venturing out on a risky expedition in search of support in the treacherous Janthir Wilds. The expansion will be released through multiple installments, each including more story features and challenges. Raids will also be introduced that are said to offer frequent and fresh content upon release and with subsequent updates as well. Other features include the ability to build your own homestead, this account-wide personal instance with a structure and land for you to decorate and cultivate. Homesteads will share unlockable features like gathering nodes and gardening plots for you to make use of. There's a new weapon type. Well, it's an old weapon type, two-handed spears, but now you can use it on land, and with this new variation of it comes a whole bunch of new abilities. This will be coming to every single class in the game and is set to add significant combat variety for every profession with new dynamic ways to play. You know, I don't really know what's been going on with Guild Wars 2. It's been like a year and a half since I played it. Really was the End of Dragons at some point in 2022 was the last time I played, but every time I go back I always like revisiting the game, and since I missed out on the Secret of Obscura, this might be a good time to hop back in. Also, I know Guild Wars 3 is on the way, which is pretty exciting. We'll see what happens with that. Anyway, Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds expansion will be coming out on August the 20th. Enotria, the Last Song is another Souls-like launching this month. This one set in a beautiful sunlit world inspired by Italian folklore where the brightest sun casts the darkest shadows. Ooh, oh wow, look at that. You'll wear these unique role-altering masks while facing formidable foes and altering reality. So they are referring to this game as Summer Souls. I like that. There are 3 main regions. They say there's over 40 hours of content and more than 100 different enemies you'll take on, in which you'll be utilizing up to 30 masks that you collect, each with their own roles, strengths, and weaknesses, and enabling new ways to play. You can swap between 3 customizable loadouts at any time. There's 68 skills with unlockable perks, over 150 million different build combinations. That's crazy. You can expand your playstyle options through a unique pool of talents as well. You've got 120 plus weapons, 8 different weapon classes, 45 spells, and 8 parry modifiers. This actually looks pretty neat, not gonna lie. It's also, though, not lost on me that this is the 3rd game branded as a Souls-like on the list, but hey, what are you gonna do? People love throwing Souls-like on their games that have action combat, right? And I'm not denying the inspiration. If the developer says that was their inspiration, who am I to judge, right? Okay, Enotria, the Last Song will be launching on August 21st for PlayStation and PC. Concord, oh boy, this is the new first-person 5 vs 5 PvP hero shooter that's sort of like if you mixed Overwatch with Guardians of the Galaxy, and that pretty much tells you everything you need to know. You pick from a roster of playable characters. They're all spunky with their quirky personalities, and form a team of 5 players to take on another team of 5 in various game modes and maps. Now, this was kind of a strange situation because when Concord was first revealed, that announcement trailer left people with quite a bit of whiplash. Basically, it opened up and appeared to be this cool cinematic piece. It had like good voice acting, visuals, and animations, and people assumed in like the first half of the trailer that it was going to be a single player narrative focused sort of Guardians of the Galaxy ripoff or something. You'd go through a campaign, right, fight some bosses, but then the back half of the trailer revealed that it was essentially an Overwatch style hero shooter. Now, the game has since been playable and it hasn't really gone particularly well. There was a semi-open beta the other weekend with all PS Network players getting access, but you had to pre-order the game on Steam if you wanted to play on PC, and the numbers, well, they didn't look good. It peaked at just over 1,000 concurrent players on the first day, and the online reception almost immediately was generally poor. The TLDR from what I've read and heard is that the movement was sloppy, gunplay was pretty average, and balance was a mess, and generally just people weren't really that interested or hooked in with what they were offering. Then 3 days later, they had a whopping 20 players online. Not great. Also, reports came out that the player base on PlayStation weren't much better either. After opening up the beta from the previously somewhat restricted one, they had even less players in the game. Access to a wider pool, fewer people were interested. Not a great sign, but we will see what happens when Concord officially launches on August 23rd. All right, we also have some beta tests that I want to talk with you about. So first of all, the early access multiplayer beta for Call of Duty Black Ops 6 will be starting on August 30th. This says, according to the sales pitch, you're going to be able to experience the game-changing Omni movement, and other gameplay innovations across a variety of brand new maps built by Treyarch, as well as building your own loadouts, accessing a variety of weapons, equipment, and perks, and dropping in with your squad across a number of modes. Again, that opens up on August 30th. That is the early access multiplayer beta, and then an open beta happens a week later. Also, if you're wondering, What the heck is going on with the Path of Exile 2 beta? I've got good news, sort of. Closed beta testing is said to be coming, quote, soon. That might sound not very helpful, but this soon also came with a brand new sign-up page available on their website. So head on over to register for a chance to get into the beta if you haven't already, before all of the other sweats take your position. And then Ashes of Creation. This is supposedly going to be starting their Alpha 2 at some point in Q3 2024. They are running out of runway if they plan to hit this window. I mean, I think technically they have until September, but they've still not even nailed down a month. We will see. It is possible that it will fall at some point in August. And with that, we wrap up this month's list. Thank you as always for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you found any games that you're interested in playing. I will be busy this month. It's been actually surprisingly been a lot going on, a lot of games to play. We got a lot of videos coming out, a lot of plans, some reviews, some previews, things like that. And yeah, it's going to be a good August. Looking pretty good. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for watching. So I feel like I'm talking to an old friend. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time, okay? Take it easy. Bye.